Welcome to your new SideQuest podcast with the intention of helping you through the game of life with mindful reframing and awareness as we all move through this journey called the human experience. It's time to level up. Hello everyone, and welcome to your new SideQuest, Love Without Labor. In this episode, we are talking about how we view love and how it doesn't need to come from just one main source. There's love in all aspects of life. You just have to look closely and pay attention to what's available to you. So, Zach, let's explain to our listeners our recent festivities that happened throughout this past weekend.
Yeah, so we celebrated May 4th. May the Force be with you.
Star Wars Day.
At our friend Micah's place, or his grandparents' place, actually. It was really nice. They had like a pool, nice living room, pool table, and it was just us three there for the first couple of hours because, you know, everyone shows up fashionably late.
Especially the girls.
But anyways, we did spend some time really bonding together and connecting as boys. And, you know, as boys do, we talk about all kinds of shit. And certain topics came up that required us to really like open up and be a little bit more vulnerable. So Micah was sharing about his story about his friend that recently, just to give you viewers a heads up, this is going to be a touchy subject, but it was about suicide and how his friend, recently ended his life because, might be because of a girl that he was in a relationship with. And so it was a very touchy subject, and I thought about opening up and sharing about some of my past where I went through some pretty dark times too. So I was sharing about how I also struggled with mental health issues, and Derek, you've also shared some of your past too with your marriage before, right?
Yeah, I opened up to about how I was married at 25 and I was trying to, stick to that society's expectation of like what life is supposed to be like in on a certain timeline. And I realized during that time that I was only really focusing on the love that I was receiving from her, like from her alone. And
Wow, that's deep.
I kind of self isolated during that time too. I wasn't hanging out much with friends. I wasn't really cultivating friendship outside of my marriage during that time. And when we were talking about these like touchy subjects, I realized that you can actually have love and receive love from other sources, and friendship is one of them. That's outside of it being in a romantic relationship.
Yeah, and as we were sharing our struggles, we were really building that bond between us three, and it felt like a very deep connection was formed. And I would say that was a form of love that we all, gave birth to.
Yeah, and shared, equally connected with, and received. We both shared and received that type of love that's platonic. It's non-romantic.
Yeah. And one more thing to add to that too is I liked how we all felt heard and seen. As I shared my story, I am really hesitant to share about my past, but I just felt so seen and heard by you two that there was just like a safety. Like it just felt so safe.
I think that's the main foundation of love, though, is that security, that safety of like it being non-judgmental and unconditional.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The rest of the day, the rest of the group came by and we hung out, had a great time. We lost track of time between, I think it was 2:30
Till
till
like 4:30 or no 6
it's
or
6
something.
o'clock. Yeah, like it was all a blur. Like
It
I don't
just
know.
went by so fast. What did we do anyway?
I think we were playing Catan
Catan, yeah,
and
we tried
Smash
to run that game.
Brothers.
Yep.
Yeah,
Played Smash.
smashed each other. But I mentioned this to Zach. I told him that, I feel like I'm reliving my 20s again because from 25 till like 30, I was married, right? And when I thought about it, I felt like those years I kind of lost, or it was lost in the sauce of marriage, and
Yeah, and you mentioned also you felt isolated, so you only experienced one kind of love, which was with your yeah, like with your partner before, and then now you're getting to experience the kind of love you receive from friendships.
yeah, like I said, I never really truly felt like I experienced that during that time that I was married. And now I feel like I'm like I have a second chance. Like I'm having a second chance at love that's not romantic in a way. Like I'm really now seeing how much value I get out of being part of this group and how much love I'm receiving also.
Yeah,
And it feels very very fulfilling because you know friendships last longer than romantic relationships. Like
right.
overall, I think friendships are more like forever
Yeah,
versus, romantically there romantic love is conditional, right? You don't go be with someone if they're a shitty person or they don't have matching values or
if there's no
there's
connection.
no connection. It's conditional. It's like legit conditional. So, but with friendships, it's a different story, right? It's
Yeah.
like you just show up and they're like, "Oh, we're cool," like
Right. That's something I realized this year too, and it has contributed to like most of the emotional growth that I've experienced with, just like with like other women too, is that not not every woman that I meet has to be like a potential romantic partner, and I'm starting to really value these friendships now, because one of my friends actually who I met last year, but I reconnected again this year. I started to really feel more drawn to her presence and how I feel around her, and just how safe I can feel sharing and opening up about things. And those are all the things I value in a friendship too. And it's making me realize that, even though it's not a romantic relationship, and it's platonic, it still has a lot of worth. And those kind of friendships, like you said, they're very like stable, they last longer because there's all this like foundation that's built from a friendship.
I read online somewhere or I saw this reel online about how relationships last longer if the foundation is friendship,
Yeah.
right? So I'm still trying to understand that concept because throughout my life, romantic relationships, they just they just come like real quick, nothing is really formed on the foundation.
Yeah, it's just the spark and chemistry.
Yeah, and you just straight up go into a relationship. And I feel like I struggle with this concept too because a lot of the times when you build a friendship, right,
Yeah.
that's just it. There's nothing more to it.
Yeah.
And, there's a wall. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, so if you have a basis of friendship, how do you get beyond that wall and make it romantic?
One thing I wanted to point out too is that like when you're building a friendship, there's also more time spent like figuring out if there's compatibility too.
True.
So that's why it works in the first place. But yeah, I definitely do. I can relate to that wall. Like what happens when, one of us starts to like catch feelings and maybe want to be more than friends.
Yeah, it gets really tricky during that time. So I'm still trying to like understand how to, you know, navigate through that. Because there are times where I actually feel like I did develop feelings for a friend that I
Yeah.
felt really close to, but then there's that dilemma of like either you confess and make it weird or you keep the friendship you already have.
Yeah. I think I know which friend you may be talking about. And it does get confusing during that time because like they don't know how you feel, you don't know how they feel. So at one point you need to have that clarifying conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be like communication between you two.
Yeah, I think that's key, the communication part. But overall, it's like, yeah, like we said, romantic love and platonic love, like it's definitely there's definitely a difference between them, but overall you can find other sources of love, just not just from romantic love. Let's go into the mindful reframing here, Zach.
So, love can come from other aspects of your life, not just from single source, a romantic partner. Love can come from friendship, family, and even your passions that fulfill you. This type of love is something you don't need to earn.
That's the best type of love that you don't need to perform for.
Love without labor.
Okay, we'll end it right here.
Yeah, so if you guys enjoyed this podcast and really valued the things we talked about, be sure to give us 5 stars on Spotify as well as Apple Podcast. If you're watching this video on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you guys for listening. This is your new SideQuest podcast.
SideQuest complete.